On this week's podcast, we're talking to our special guest, Chad Boak, all about church marketing. There's going to be a lot of great information that will get shared today that's applicable not only for churches, but for your business too. So make sure you sit down, tune in, and enjoy this episode. Hi, and welcome to the Dogwood Media Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Brian Harris, and today I'm excited to have my longtime friend, Chad Boak, in the studio with me. Welcome, Chad.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Chad, you and I have known each other for,
it's been a while.
I was trying to think back to, because we moved back to Montgomery in 2005.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking I met you, if not 2005, it was around then, but we really got to know each other around 2012 when I started attending Vaughn Forest.
That's right. Yep. Came and started helping us out with all things tech and production and all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, that was pre-Dogwood days.
It was very pre-Dogwood. I was working at State Board of Missions and basically just helping out as a volunteer. And then one day you found out I was getting paid.
Right. Yeah. I'll never forget that when the pastor told me, "Oh, by the way, you have a part-time staff member helping you now," which I was overjoyed with. I mean, that.
Well, you were at first like, okay.
Yeah. Well, because we knew each other,
right?
But we didn't know each other super well, and I think that was around the time Vaughn Forest hosted the Alabama Baptist State Convention that year.
It was around like
it was around that time. If not, then like right before that. But I just remember. I was a little intimidated because, this had been kind of like, the previous worship pastor had gone and the associate guy that was in charge of production was gone. And I kind of came up through student ministry and learned some video editing and graphic design all through that. But they were like, hey, those guys have left and you're the youngest guy on staff. So now you're in charge of all the production and tech. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And then you came along and actually did a good job at it, as opposed to me, who was just like, "Hey, here I am."
Well, so, I had no intention. I didn't want to do what you were doing, and so then it helps when you have someone like that. I was like, "How can I help you?"
Yeah, and it was huge because what I remember about those days also was how you really increased our video, the quality of our video work that we were doing, as well as our online presence, because those were. There were some churches doing online okay, but then like you went and looked at ours and like it was like a bad Chinese movie, like the vocals were off from the video, not really sure what was going on. I just remember you coming in and at one point you gutted like the entire system up there in the video, the broadcast room, and I remember coming up, seeing everything in shambles and just thinking like. If he leaves right now, I don't know what to do, and I'm going to lose my job. But you didn't. You were very faithful, and you stuck around, and you got everything. And the best compliment that I can ever give anyone is you leave something better than you found it, and you left it 100,000 times better than you found it.
It might have been better, but I still wanted to do so much more. And I was actually talking to Nick, who's the current tech person there now. Yeah. And I was like, hey, have you been up there to the video room and seen the backside of the switcher? And he's like, yeah, did you do that? Yeah. I was like, that was one of those projects that no one saw, but I knew was a mess, but still needed to be done. So you're welcome, Nick.
Yeah, it's
now your problem.
It's like that, what's that meme of Homer Simpson where he's standing there looking all like statuesque, and then you see him like where he's like clipped the fat behind him, it's like where he's actually hiding all of it. Yeah. Yes. And then if you go to, there's another room up there, like an electrical room where it's like the graveyard of past video systems. And I'm like, you know what? I've discovered I'm a hoarder because apparently I'm like, we may need it one day, even though we'll never need it one day. And but it's still up there, and it stands as a monument to your faithfulness and creativeness and effectiveness. So well done.
I will say we did try to sell some of that stuff. It was just literally not needed anymore.
Yeah, it's
technology was moving forward, and so we had gotten thankfully we'd gotten blessed to be able to add in new equipment. Right. Of course, it did help that when you had one major failure, that it forced Hardy, who is the administrator, the man who holds the pocket purses, he had to pay up, and I was able to show him like, look, we can buy this system for a quarter of the price what you paid for the last one.
And Hardy has always been very good to us to help us out with what we need.
Yes,
and some of what we want.
That's very accurate.
No, it's good.
No, it was a fun time though, and because of that, we ended up building a friendship.
That's right. Yeah.
And gone on through Dogwood, and then Vaughn Forest has been a client with Dogwood here for a while in multiple ways as Vaughn Forest has continued to evolve and grow and change. And And so like some things we do for you are not as much as what we used to do, but we're still doing like basically with the website right now, we're able to come in and be able to back up you guys. And we do a lot of the changes on the website. And
you guys do pretty much everything with the website.
Okay.
And that's one of the things that I appreciate so much about Dogwood is, Lauren and some of the other folks that work here, I'll send an email and I'm like, I want it to do this. And you guys are like, we got you.
Yeah.
And it's so great because I'm able just to provide a little bit of content. Hey, here's an idea, direction I want to take it. And I've always been so grateful because, you've taken time out of your day, like, hey, come on over. We'll take a look at this. We had to build a page that was for like updates on a lead pastor search, and I'm like, I want it to have a moving bar that does, and you're like, here's how we can do that.
Yeah.
And you guys have always been so great at helping us with our website, but then also the social media campaigns as needed. Like, we obviously know how to make a post on Facebook,
right,
but there's a difference between a marketing strategy and a post on Facebook. And you guys have always been incredible partners to Vaughn Forest Church, to me personally, with anything that's been needed with that.
Well, I know we want to talk a little bit more about that, but we want to talk specifically about church marketing because your role right now, your title is Executive Pastor of Ministries, which can mean so many different things. But,
it's kind of the duct tape, just pastor of random whatever.
That's a great analogy. I mean, that's right. You are literally the thing that's holding things together. So like
now my theology makes me say that's Jesus. But
I'm talking about a physical, like you are the person that is doing the physical work there. So like, and there's a lot of different things. We got a lot of
great folks. Yeah.
Yes, you do.
We got a lot of great folks.
But you still have to have someone to give direction.
Sure.
And part of that has been through the marketing efforts of the church. And I've been able to help you with some of that. Dogwood's been able to help with some of that. But like right now, let's talk about it. Like when you are marketing Vaughn Forest, what are you thinking? Like what's the first thing you're thinking? Like, okay, we have our worship services. We want new people to come in. How do we get new people to come in?
So, I'm going to answer your question in a roundabout way, but I will get there. Trust me. I will follow the rules of conversation. So my background is in marketing, advertising, communications. That was I went to school here at AUM.
You're a Montgomery guy.
Yep, born and raised, and I think in a lot of ways that's helped. I mean, helping to know the culture that you're in. That's obviously huge. I mean, for marketing, but I came up through student ministry, and I thought I was gonna be a student pastor for a long time, and then I realized how exhausting that is. But during that time, the guy who was a youth pastor at the time said, "Hey, I'm going to bring the teaching in the word, the worship in the word. You bring the fun and the funny." And so we were basically doing like dude perfect YouTube video things for the student ministry before like YouTube was a thing. Had I known I could have made money doing that, this would be a very different conversation right now. I would probably be inviting you out to my island to have a conversation. No, I'm kidding. But no, and so we did videos and learned graphic design all kind of on our own. And again, this is the importance of having a partner like Dogwood, people that are actually trained in doing it versus the guys like me that are like, Microsoft Paint's really great, right?
Well, I remember you being Steve Irwin, like in one of the videos. Crikey.
Dude, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, that was for a Mother's Day.
Was it?
A Mother's Day video where they wanted me to be looking for a mom who fit, Proverbs 31 or 32? Is it 32, right?
Yeah, Proverbs 32 woman.
Yeah. And they were like, yeah, we'll call it The Mom Hunter. And I'm not going to go into all the reasons why that was a terrible idea. But and if we need to edit that out, feel free. But that was a video. Yes, they made me pretend to. Anyway, beside the point. So yes. So my job was marketing. And eventually what happened was the lead pastor at the time, he said, "Hey, we see you've been doing this for the student ministry. We need someone to do communications, to lead our communications efforts for the whole church. We'd like for you to do that." And so I said, sure, I'm happy to step into that role. And that kind of became my job. And of course, again, it evolved into a multifaceted role eventually with production and helping oversee worship. But what that helped me do was create a cohesive strategy of marketing, because marketing is not just a social media campaign. Marketing is not just a graphic. Marketing is not just a video. Marketing is not just a website. You have to take a holistic approach to marketing, and especially with church marketing. And you have to understand what's your goal. So what's the number one rule in marketing? You have to have something of value, right? Or you have to at least create the perception of value, because if you don't have something that people want, marketing's impossible. I mean, or at least help them to understand, hey, you do need this. And so obviously being a pastor at a church, I think we have the thing that everybody needs, whether they know it or not. I think that Jesus is the most important thing, and everybody needs Jesus in their life and in their heart to be their Savior. Unapologetic about that.
Right.
And so for us, it's help. The product's easy, so now we have to develop the strategy. And developing the strategy involves getting in the minds of those who may be that are in your community. Mm-hmm. And I think where a lot of, especially churches, run into problems is a lot of church marketing guys, communication guys, pastors even, because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of churches can't afford to have a full-time marketing or communications person. So lots of times it's the pastor / worship leader / youth leader / communications director / hair care, tire, and auto center. Like it's that guy filling a multifaceted role. A lot of times pastors have trouble and church guys have trouble understanding the mindset of someone who's in their community, right? So you have to get outside of what do you think other pastors are looking for with marketing and communications and all that kind of stuff, and what's going to actually reach someone in that community. And that's been one of the it's a challenge, but it's also a lot of fun. Yeah. And so I recommend reaching out and asking. Go to lunch with some folks that are not in your church, but also working with a company like Dogwood that has a lot of experience, that works both in the Christian and in the quote unquote secular world. Mm-hmm. You guys have that experience. And so being able to come to y'all and saying, hey, how do we get this done? What are some good strategies? What is a holistic approach we can take to this in terms of, whether it's social media promotion, website, whatever else it may be. Mm-hmm. I think that all of that is key. And so just approaching it from that wide 30,000 foot view and then eventually working yourself down to specific next steps, I think it's a big deal.
One of the things y'all have done that not every church has done, and it really should, is y'all have developed basically a persona. Like you've found who is that person we need to be targeting. Right. And so that helps because like if you're just doing a broadcast marketing message, you're going to hit everything and nothing at the same time.
That's right. Yeah.
And so the way you guys have done it, you have decided, okay, this is the person that we know is the most likely person that's going to bring their family to church. Right. And so if we focus on that, then we're going to reach the entire family because we're shooting we're sniping basically versus the shotgun method.
Yeah, and it's interesting because in our church we say we have 5 different generations in our church. Vaughn Forest, a very diverse church. Ethnically, racially, generationally, culturally, very diverse church. And so, yeah, you have to cast the net wide, but at the same time, if you're aiming at nothing, you'll hit nothing. Was it aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time? Right. And so for us, we know that if we specifically target, men, that oftentimes that net is going to be wide enough to help us capture a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. So most women will respond to a graphic that has a little bit more of a masculine feel. And I'm not talking about like guns and hunting or anything like that, but I'm just saying, more masculine tones. And anyone that's done graphic design or marketing understands kind of what I mean by that. Mm-hmm. The reverse is not necessarily true. If there's something that has a super feminine design, a lot of guys aren't going to respond to that. And so knowing who your target is essential because, man, if not, you're just like you said, you're just aiming at nothing. And again, this is where I feel like experience kind of helps you with that, but also taking the time to understand the culture that is around you. And we've seen this work over and over again. This fits in, knowing the rhythms of the culture. Mm-hmm. So for us, we always have a super big attractional series that launches on Pro Bowl Sunday, the Sunday before the Super Bowl. Yeah. Now, why is that? Because the Pro Bowl is terrible and no guy actually wants to watch it. And so we figured, hey, that's the one Sunday out of the year where guys might actually go, well, you know what? I'll get her off my back. There's nothing else going on. I'll go to church that day. And we have seen it work. It is crazy the response we've seen to that. So by keeping in cultural rhythms and, of course, knowing, like here in Montgomery and Pike Road, a lot of military come in kind of at the end of June, beginning of July. So knowing when to launch certain series aimed at those families that are coming in, and not that we're trying to be underhanded or anything like that, but just knowing, all right, what is it that people are looking for?
Also, you're trying to be a good steward, too, of the resources you have, and part of that's been developing a calendar. Right. And knowing that these are the seasonal things in Montgomery. Right. So they're not applicable to Selma, or not applicable to anywhere else. I mean, there are things that happen here in Montgomery. You've developed that and gone, all right, well, these are the things we're going to do every year. Right. And then also, I thought this was a really cool one too, because y'all had a really huge event y'all were doing at one point. I mean, the fall festival. And,
yeah.
I mean, and it was huge, but
Right.
it was not successful in the same way. And so, like y'all said, all right, you know what? Even though we had 5,000 people come to this, it's not the right thing for us. We need to take a step back and do that, and that's hard.
It is. And what the event you're referring to? Well, we actually had two. We had our fall festival. We call it the Forest Festival because we're Bowling Forest, and then we had our Christmas party. And these events, I mean, I think at one year we had like 4,200, and another one we had like 5,000 or something like that. And I mean, dude, I don't know if you remember these events, but literally we had fast passes where folks could get to the party quicker, wristbands. We were collecting information because the goal for us with all of this, again, we love Jesus. I think everybody needs to be in a relationship with Jesus. Is to get them back. You know, if you don't have a meeting from a meeting or a next step from your event, then, you know, what are we even doing here? So our goal from all of these events that we used to try to do, the Halloween event and then the Christmas party, was try to get people back on a Sunday morning. And ultimately, what we realized in our research, tracking who came and then who came back on a Sunday morning, is that it was not very effective at all. And that's where marketing research comes in to help and being able to correlate all that. So we shifted our strategy because, yes, we had amazing numbers, but it was not accomplishing our goal. So we shifted our strategy. So now what we do a Sunday morning Christmas party where we invite people to come on Sunday, and then they come, and we've seen a lot of guests come, and they come back and experience that and really seem to enjoy it. You know, we did our trunk or treat a couple weeks ago at Halloween. And we had a lot of our folks come and invite their friends. So it's a lower attended event, but it is a much higher impact on what we're trying to do and those that we're trying to reach.
Have you ever had an event, or not even just an event, but it's something you've done marketing wise that you're like, nope, that failed. I won't do this again. Something that someone could learn from your mistake. I'm putting you on the spot.
The answer is yes. I mean, there's been a lot of things that we've done. You know, I think about, again, we're talking about like a holistic approach. There were some times where we tried to have like some openers, especially like on a Sunday morning. And so we put this big, you know, come and check out, you know, Christmas Eve, we're going to have all this cool stuff that we're going to do. And you're going to love the opener we do that day at the worship service, and just, you know, I mean, like no response. And again, I mean, I even think about those parties we just talked about a second ago. I mean, we spent tens of thousands of dollars on those events. And by any metric other than coming back on Sunday morning, they were a huge success. The community came on the campus, and there's value in that. There's value in providing a service to the community. And I mean, you remember that we had like characters and carriage rides and inflatables and hayride, all kinds of stuff.
I mean, somewhere there's a Chinese Mickey Mouse somewhere around that building.
So the students did an event on the Wednesday before Halloween called Humans versus Zombies.
Okay.
The student pastor found all of those knockoff Chinese costumes, and he hung them up to scare the kids when they walked in.
They were already scary enough.
I know, right? But it was. But again, you have to know your audience. You have to know who you're going after, and then you have to tailor your marketing approaches to that.
Have there been something that you've done in marketing that you've been like, oh, this is not going to work, but I'm willing to listen to, I don't know, just, I'm thinking like someone else in the church has said, hey, we need to do this. You're like, this is not going to work. And then you're like, oh, wow, that worked.
Well, so what's funny is we did in November, first part of November, a men's event and a women's event. And so Hardy and I were trying to come up with these ideas for a men's event and a women's event. So for the men's event, we come up with, we're going to get wings. We're going to hang out. We're going to have a brief message of encouragement, and then we're going to watch Sunday Night Football up at the church. If you're from the NFL, disregard that last part. We definitely did not put up. No, we put up on the big screen. And so then Hardy and I are planning the women's event. Now I'm going to say that again, but slowly. Hardy, the other XP, and I, the dude, we're planning a women's event.
Yep.
And so we're like, we'll bring in this lady to talk about why you shouldn't be stressed during the holidays. And so some of the ladies on our church staff hear about this, and basically they come like an intervention in my office of like, do you have any idea how that's coming across? Like basically like, men are going to eat wings and watch football. Women learn how to not be stressed. Like, I mean, it was a very, so like, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, this will be great. We'll promote this everywhere and the women will flock to this. And by changing just a few words, so they changed it to, they made it like a charcuterie making night, and they got to take home the charcuterie board and kind of learn all, because apparently there's more to it than just putting meat and cheese on a plate. I don't know. I'm a dude. I have no idea.
I just eat the meat and cheese.
Right. But they did that. And then they had a lady who came and talked about establishing boundaries and finding rest in the holidays.
Okay.
And so by simply changing the message of the marketing, it became it was a lot different, and it was a huge success.
One thing you just pointed out too is the listening also too.
Right.
And then also like your staff. I mean, that's a big part of making sure that when you have a marketing effort for your church, that making sure they're on board, and then also listening, because sometimes you might think it's an amazing idea.
Yeah. Hardy and I are planning a women's event. Like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Like me and him. And again, our heart was right. We're trying to provide a good opportunity for ladies to get together and hang out. And but we were not able to understand what the right message and marketing of that would be. And yes, like if you have a team, if you have a staff, involve them. Like wisdom is found in the counsel of many. Right now, ultimately as a leader, you got to make the decision. And but if you're wise, you have people on your team that you can trust that can help you out with that.
Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit on you here. One of the things that no one ever wants to talk about, but you also need to be prepared for, crisis communication.
Unfortunately, we've had experience with that.
Yes, every church has probably had some type of crisis communication, but 99% of them probably don't have a plan and don't have anyone there to support them when those things happen.
Right.
Is there something you've learned from those experiences without having to go too much in depth with them? Because I'm sure we don't want to open up wounds or anything like that.
Yeah.
But like from the marketing part of that, what was something that you've learned out of those things that you would go, hey, church, you need to do this right now to be prepared for if something ever happens?
So, whether you are a church or not, the first thing that I would tell everyone, we have a saying whenever anything is kind of going crazy, and it is that calm is contagious. Mm-hmm. Calm is contagious. Remain calm. It's okay. We're going to figure this out. We're going to get through it.
How do you remain calm, though? I mean, like, you've got the news reporters calling you, or not, I'm just throwing something out there.
Sure. So
people in the church are calling you.
For me, it's I know what true emergency situations look like, life or death kind of stuff. And certainly there are times where it is a big thing that you have to communicate, that you have to talk about. But no one is currently on the table living or dying based on what we do, right?
Makes sense.
And so when I say stay calm, I'm not saying don't act. Certainly act, but remain calm.
Don't do a
Keep a clear head.
Yep.
And if you, as the communications person or as the leader, are up there going, what's the, you remember that episode of The Office, the cold open, where Dwight's trying to teach them about fire safety. And at one point he lights a bunch of firecrackers to kind of, scare them. And I just remember Michael going, the fire is shooting at us. Like, if that's you, whenever you get back, and listen, we've gotten bad news before about some things we had to communicate. Like, again, I'm not going to go into details and all that. But if you are yelling, the fire is shooting at us when things are going badly, you're not leading well.
Right.
And if you have a leader who is doing that, they are not leading well. Remain calm. Remain calm, because when you remain calm, you can clear your head and you can develop a strategy. Now, I would say, if you have no experience with crisis communication, I would encourage you to reach out to someone who does. Dogwood, obviously you guys have had some experience with that. There's been a couple times where you guys have been reached out to and you've called me because you know that we've gone through this.
Yep.
And so if there's anyone here today who is listening and down the road something happens and you need help communicating to your church or your organization during a time of crisis, reach out to Dogwood.
Yep.
And we will be happy to help. I say we, you guys will be happy to help. If you guys decide to involve myself or someone else that who's done this, always happy to help.
I think that's a good point too, because just having someone to be able to go,
a resource.
Yes.
Yeah.
It just nothing else but to listen to you and go, yes, you're doing the right thing.
That's exactly right.
Slow down. Hey, let me call Dogwood. Let me call Chad.
Right.
Hey man, this is what's happening. I don't need you to go talking about it. I just need to hear me out and help me think through this. And
oftentimes, yes, situations can certainly be bad, but if you take a step back and get a little perspective, that'll give you the breathing room to communicate as you need to. And so the next thing I would say is we believe strongly in trusting God and telling his people. So while we may not communicate the gory details of every situation, we're also not going to shy away from the truth.
Right.
Now, there have been times where we've had to, and again, I'm not getting into details, where we've had to let people go for reasons that were absolutely appropriate to let them go. But we're not going to share those reasons with the church at large for that person's good, because they are still someone that Jesus loves. Now, Sometimes legality gets involved. Sometimes, all of that kind of stuff. And if you are in a situation where a lawyer is needed, contact a lawyer.
Yes.
Like that is essential. If it's another situation like where a pastor is hired and it turns out to not be the right fit, own it.
Yeah.
Own it. And we had that situation at Vaughn Forest a couple of years ago where there was a gentleman who came, and I don't mind sharing this. I'm not going to share the whole story.
Right.
A gentleman who came, he was hired as a pastor. After a couple of days, it became apparent both to him and to us that it was not the right fit. And our lay leadership team, and I admire them so much for this, they owned it. They said, hey guys, we messed up.
Yep.
And they said that to the church. And you know what the church is full of? A bunch of people just like us. And they went, we've been there.
Yep.
Now, if they had said, this happened and this and this and this and this, people smell fake before they smell anything. And so if you are fake, people will smell that and they will come after you and they will go, you're not telling me the whole truth, which leads to mistrust, which leads to a feedback loop of bad. And so trust God. Tell his people. Now, again, if you need to involve a lawyer and he says, hey, you don't need to mention this, like you need to listen to that.
Right.
Seek help if you need to. But most of all, remain calm because here's the deal. It's going to be okay.
Yep.
It's going to be okay. And we will get the situation figured out.
Those are all very good tips. And so I think we'll end this podcast on that.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, we try to keep the podcast around 20 minutes.
Okay.
Because my idea is thinking that, someone's going to listen to this.
On their car, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Some type of anywhere in Montgomery and pretty much anywhere else across the United States, you can get there in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
across the United States.
Well, I'm talking about like.
So, Brian, I think we should tell a story about traveling across the United States on Spirit Airlines. Remember that trip?
We could do some of that.
So I'll never forget when we went to Los Angeles, we were going out to Saddleback for the Purpose Driven Conference.
We were.
And Hardy tells us, our administrative pastor, that we are flying on Spirit Airlines.
Yes.
And the only thing that I remember really well about that trip is about halfway across the country, we all had to get out and push the plane.
In the air.
To get it where it needed to go. But no. So if you remember it, I want you to tell on yourself a little bit here because you had played a practical joke on me.
I had
leading up to that with a bumper video. So
I was making a bumper video for My Crazy Family, I believe was the name.
Yeah,
of
My
it.
Crazy Family series. That's right.
And you gave me a bunch of pictures to use for it, and you're like, I really like these pictures.
And it was just like photo album that was flashing up there real quick. So it was like a 25-second stinger.
And it was basically, it had a little music with it, and it literally just had pictures of people in photo albums. Well, there was a family of monkeys in there that you had sent me, and I was like, why did he send me a family of monkeys? I thought
it was funny. It was a bunch of monkeys, man.
Yeah, and so I went in and photoshopped Chad's face on the monkeys. and then I sent it to him thinking that you would see it. And
I got it, and I saw my face on the monkey's face, and I was like, all right, if I'm a stickler about this, because it was so quick, and I didn't care. I'm like, Brian's going to be like, oh, party pooper. And so I was like, whatever. I can laugh at myself. Not a big deal.
Yeah. And so we aired it. It went out. It aired
every week, that series.
Yeah, it was a 6-week series, and so the bumper video played at the beginning of it every week, and there was Chad's face on the monkey, and every time the tech crew loved it. By the way,
right?
I don't know if as many people in the whole church noticed it.
It was pretty quick.
Yeah,
it was pretty quick.
It's out there, and it's part of Vaughn Forest lore. It's there.
Yeah.
So that video is still out there, but you decided that you would.
Yeah. So we were flying across the country to go on Spirit Airlines, and Hardy, of course, books like a group
the
rate.
Cheapest.
Yeah,
plane.
But he does it as a group.
Yes.
And he says, hey, if any of you want to change your seats, feel free. And so you and I were like, well, we're going to fly, what equates to first class for Spirit. You pay $50 extra and you get the big seat.
Well, we found out it was only $50 each way, and we're like, for $100, I'm going to sit in the big seat.
Right.
So
we did that. And then now that was before the bumper video. And then afterwards, after you did that, I remember going on there and realizing that I could change your seat to the most uncomfortable seat on the plane.
Yes, you could.
And so I basically sent you like a screenshot and with a text that I believe the verbiage was, remember how this moment could have gone and didn't. And you were like, I will never again.
And have I ever done anything like that ever again to you?
Been,
I learned very quickly. Man, that could have really ruined my trip because I'm a big guy. And I had me and Eric were going to be sitting in the seats, right? Because neither one of us were taking our wives on this trip, unlike everyone else. And so we're like, me and Eric will hang out and we'll get seats 1A and 1B together. And like when he showed me that he could have put me literally in the back of the bus.
Well, the funniest thing was Hardy kept, making fun of us for doing that. And then after we flew out there, he changed his seat to the big one on the way back. He's like, no, I'm not doing this.
They all did that. Like everyone that could grab one of the big seats.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, guys, this thing's worth $50 every time.
And I remember at one point you were like, I wonder where we are. So you turned your phone back on. You turned it off airplane mode. And the plane immediately started nosediving for the... No, not really.
That didn't happen. But we did worry about that, though.
Yeah.
And I did like playing with my phone over there. But,
I remember when Spectrum, was it when they cut ESPN or whatever it was this year before college football? And everybody was getting upset about it. I'm like, just remember, if you're having a bad day, remember you could be flying Spirit Airlines right now. So anyway.
Yeah, I've never flown them again since then. So.
No, I'm good.
And I never will. I think that was the only story I was willing to share. And we do still have a question that, if anyone's listening to the podcast that knows where the hard drive where the first 6 years of all the stuff I did at Vaughn Forest is on.
I need you guys to @ Matt Collins and ask him where the hard drive is. No,
Matt, is it Matt.Collins at VaughnForest.com?
Yeah.
Ask him where the hard drive is.
No, he doesn't know where it is. No,
it's a true statement. He has absolutely no clue where it's at, even though it was given to him.
It's all good. It's all good.
Well, that will be wrap it up. We'll wrap it up on that. It's a good story.
Sure.
So if you do like what you're hearing, you can head over to our website at dogwoodmediasolutions.com. You can check out all of our other content we have there. There's a lot of different things that are good tips for you, even on church marketing or any other pieces with social media. SEO we'd even get into, but just some of those type of things that can help you in your church or your business or anything else. But definitely go to Dogwood Media Solutions and you can find that information. If you want to connect with us, again, the same website, dogwoodmediasolutions.com is the best place to do that. You can contact us directly through the website there. And of course, all of our social media accounts are linked there too. So definitely go check those out and follow us. If you haven't already, definitely please subscribe to our podcast. That's the best way to get notifications every time we put out a new podcast. So when we have new content like this, when we talk about church marketing or anything else, all that content's there waiting for you. So again, thanks for tuning in. Chad, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks for tuning in to Dogwood Media Solutions podcast. And until next time, happy marketing.